Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a Christmas or a New Year's party makeup look. Unfortunately, I've caught on a cold, so my voice sounds extra nasal and tired. Sorry about that. But if you're interested in learning how to get this look, please stay tuned. I first started with my brows, and I'll link my tutorial for it in the description box below. I used my Anastasia dipbrow pomade in medium brown and then went over it with the clear brow gel. Now to prime my eyes, I'm using the NARS Pro Prime Smudge Proof Eyeshadow Primer and then blended it out with my ring finger. For this tutorial, I'm using my Viseart Neutral Matte Palette and I'll be using this purple gray tone at the bottom row. So I'm just packing the shade on my mobile eyelid and then blending it out really well. Next, I'm taking this medium brown shade to go into my crease to warm up this look. So again, a lot of blending here. Next, I'm taking a mixture of these gray and black eyeshadows and focusing this into the crease of my eye. This will help in adding some definition to this area. I'm then going in with this light brown shade and working this just above my crease to act as a transition shade. Then going in with this black shadow and focusing it on the outer V of my eye. Here I'm just blending out the eyeshadows to create a smooth transition between the eyeshadows. Next, I'm taking these two lighter shades and using these as a brow bone highlight. This will act as a matte brow bone highlight. Next, for the fun part. Here I'm using the pigment Tan by MAC and I'm mixing this with Duraline by Inglot so the pigment doesn't fall off. So here I'm just packing the pigment onto my eyelid, avoiding the outer V area where we have the gray black eyeshadow. Then I'm taking the pigment Vanilla and using this to highlight my inner tear duct. So here I've just completed the other eye and ready to move on to the face. Here I'm using two primers. One is the Smashbox green primer and the other is the Becca Ever Matte primer. So the Becca one, I'm applying it primarily to my oily T-zone. And as you can see, my skin has been recently breaking out quite a bit. So that's why I'm using the other green Smashbox primer, which is more for blemish control. So I'll take the Smashbox one, the rest of my face, so my cheeks, my forehead, and my chin. For foundation, I'm using the Giorgio Armani Luminous Silk Foundation, and I'm starting in the center of my face and then blending the foundation outwards. This foundation gives quite a light coverage, so I'm not expecting it to cover up my acne and acne scarring. Concealer and spot concealing is for that purpose. Next, I'm just adding some color back into my skin using the Chanel Soleil Tandy Chanel, and I'll be using this mostly on my forehead, the cheekbone area, my jawline, my nose, and around my mouth. As you can see here, when I use this, it just adds a little bit of warmth and helps me blend the foundation so it matches more with my darker neck. I'm then using my Illamasqua black gel liner to make a thin line on my top lash line and then blending it out with a smudge brush or a pencil brush. For this look, I really didn't want anything too harsh, so that's the reason I'm excessively blending out the eyeliner. I'm using a pencil brush to blend it out. Moving on to concealing, I'm using the Kevyn Aucoin Sensual Skin Enhancer for concealing both under eyes and also my acne and acne scarring. So I'm applying a small amount under my eyes, and I'll be blending it out with the Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. and then setting it with Banana Luxury Powder using a regular sponge. So here I've just finished spot concealing around my face. Moving on to setting the face, I'm using the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish in medium dark and just setting everywhere since I have super oily skin. Next, I'm using a darker shade of the same product, in the shade Dark, then going over the perimeter of my face, so mostly my forehead, the cheekbone, jawline, those areas. I'm also adding some to the sides of my nose. Next, I'm taking the gray and the black shadows again to go under my lower lash line and really just blending it out to create a softer, diffuse look. Moving on to eyeliner. Here I'm using my favorite gel liner, which is the Marc Jacobs gel eyeliner. This is in black and I'm using this to tightline both my top and bottom waterline. Then my favorite mascara, I'm using the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara for my top lashes. Then going in with the lash groomer to remove any clumps that may exist. Then using the Clinique Bottom Lash Mascara for bottom lashes. So that's eyes completed. Next, contouring my face using the MAC Sculpting Powder in Shadowy. And I'm going over mostly my cheekbone and my jawline areas. I'm also using the same product to contour my nose. Moving on to lips, I'm using the MAC Lip Liner in the shade Beet. I didn't want the typical red lip look, so that's the reason I opted for this shade. But you can switch it for any shade you may like. I'm first using a cream blush. This is the Makeup Forever High Definition Blush in the shade 510. I'm just applying a small amount to my cheeks. I'll go over this with a powder blush, which is by Colourpop, and this is in the shade Cheerio. For highlighter, I'm using my Dior Skin Shimmer Powder in the shade Amber Diamond. And I'm applying a small amount to the top of my cheekbones and also on my cupid's bow. Finally, I'm just setting all of this in place with my Skindinavia No More Shine Makeup Setting Spray. And here's the final look. I really hope you like it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Here's wishing you a very Merry Christmas.